What if the dragon that chooses you isn't a symbol of ultimate power, but a mirror reflecting the brokenness you've spent a lifetime trying to outrun? And true ascension requires not dominating the beast, but surrendering to the grief it carries. In Crimson and Ash, Shane Hammond delivers a progression fantasy that transforms the dragon rider trope into a visceral exploration of trauma bonding and earned mastery, proving that in worlds where magic demands sacrifice, strength is forged not in conquest, but in the terrifying vulnerability of shared healing. This isn't merely another cultivation story with flashy battles. It's an emotionally precise narrative where every scale shed mirrors internal unmasking. Every flight feels like both liberation and reckoning, and partnership means honoring the creature's pain as sacred ground rather than fuel for ambition. From the first ember-scented narration, listeners are immersed in a landscape where fire purifies only what you're willing to lose, making every moment of connection feel like both risk and revelation. Perfect for fans of character-driven progression fantasy and stories where growth happens through mutual recognition rather than solitary grinding, this audiobook serves up atmospheric wonder, relentless emotional honesty, and a protagonist whose journey from fractured outcast to sovereign master resonates with anyone who's ever mistaken control for worth. When orphaned stablehand Kaylin Vance is unexpectedly bonded to Crimson, a dragon deemed unwritable due to her traumatic past, he expects rejection, not to discover her resistance mirrors his own suppressed rage and sorrow. But as Kaylin navigates brutal training grounds and societal scorn, he realizes this bond isn't about dominance, it's about co-regulation. Hammond masterfully avoids reducing Crimson to magical weapon, or Kaylin to chosen one archetype. Instead, he crafts a relationship rooted in radical reciprocity, where consent is negotiated through body language and shared breath, and where ascension emerges from honoring limits rather than transcending them. The audiobook narration amplifies the symbiosis, capturing Kaylin's guarded focus softening into genuine receptivity, while Crimson's presence is conveyed through organic sound design that makes every rumble feel like dialogue. You don't just hear their bond deepen, you feel the seismic shift of two beings learning that true power lies not in commanding fire, but in tending the ashes together. What elevates Crimson and Ash beyond typical Dragon Rider fare is its nuanced portrayal of magical partnership as somatic therapy rather than hierarchical mastery. Kaylin isn't merely leveling up, he's confronting how systemic neglect taught him to equate value with utility, challenging the notion that belonging requires performance. Crimson doesn't submit to his will, she creates space where his fragility can exist without judgment, honoring his autonomy even as her own walls crumble. Their relationship evolves through acts of radical reciprocity, sharing silence during molting cycles that bypass verbal processing, establishing nonverbal cues that prevent overwhelm, and defending each other from handlers who mistake compliance for loyalty. Supporting characters add vital texture, fellow riders whose ambition masks insecurity, elders whose wisdom carries both warning and grace, even the volcanic training grounds themselves, rendered as living archive whose heat absorbs centuries of unprocessed trauma. Every interaction reinforces the novel's core truth. In systems built on extraction, tenderness is insurgency, and presence is the only true flame. Even the progression mechanics serve thematic depth, with skill trees mirroring emotional integration and breakthroughs becoming metaphors for embodied trust. For audiobook listeners, this production is an immersive sensory descent into elemental intimacy. The narrator embodies Kaylin and Crimson's evolving dynamic with remarkable distinction. Kaylin's voice carries brittle resilience laced with dawning trust, while Crimson's presence is conveyed through layered audio textures, distant rumbles marking emotional shifts, rhythmic breathing during flight sequences, the hushed crackle of embers syncing with heartbeats during moments of clarity, all anchor mythic stakes in tangible reality. Pacing mirrors the rhythm of cultivation, deliberate during bonding rituals and reflection, then surging with urgency as external trials collide with internal awakenings. Whether you're commuting through urban chaos or sitting in twilight solitude, the audiobook creates a portable sanctuary where slowness feels sacred and connection feels lifeline. It's storytelling as embodied validation, transforming passive listening into active participation in a journey where mastery isn't about rising above, but about rooting deeper together. Ultimately, Crimson and Ash redefines progression fantasy by centering interspecies empathy within cultivation frameworks. It satisfies genre cravings for satisfying advancement and high-stakes tension, while delivering substantive commentary on trauma recovery, masculine vulnerability, and the radical act of building partnerships based on mutual wholeness rather than utility. No prior series knowledge is needed. It stands confidently as a complete emotional odyssey. If you've ever wondered whether strength can coexist with softness, or if true ascension requires embracing what others discard, this audiobook will affirm that sometimes the most powerful magic is simply showing up with open hands. Press play, step into the ash, and prepare to believe that even in landscapes shaped by fire, hearts still find ways to rise, together. Your next favorite progression fantasy isn't waiting in flawless victories. It's waiting in the brave, trembling choice to heal alongside the one who sees your scars as sacred.